Good evening. I'm Bob Eby. This is another one of our series on the focus of education, brought to you by members of the Board of Education. Today I'm pleased to have as my guest Joe Bruce. Joe is the director of the Family Resource Center. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you so much.
We're pleased to have you. First, give us a little background about yourself, how you got to Oak Ridge, where you went to school, just kind of a little bit about Joe Bruce.
Okay. Well, I went to college at Middle Tennessee State, and I majored there in psychology and sociology with a minor in criminal justice. And working with children and families was always something that interests me. My career then went off. I met my husband, we went into the military, and we traveled a lot. Yeah. And while we were traveling, I got to test a lot of different kinds of things, and a lot of different, had a lot of different opportunities to try many different kinds of careers. And I still kept feeling this draw to work with children and families. And when we retired, my husband came back to Campbell County, because that's where his father was raised, and where they had retired. His family had all retired there, and so we joined them there. And I started working for the Campbell County school system, and I was working first in Title I doing math, and then from there I moved on to work with their parent involvement program and actually help develop their program.
Awesome.
And then I heard about this new thing that was going on in Kentucky called the Family Resource Center, and that Tennessee was going to give it a test trial, and they were going to start with 13 centers. And then I heard that one of the centers that had been chosen was Oak Ridge. Yeah. So I put in my application.
And how many years ago was that then?
That was 25 years ago.
So you've been working with the Family Resource Center in Oak Ridge for 25 years.
For 25 years. Yeah, I live in Campbell County. My heart is I'm an Oak Ridger at heart. I really am.
That's a little drive each day, I guess, but gives you time to think about,
Gives me time to prepare for the things I need to do and decompress when I'm leaving.
So when you heard about this Family Resource Center, tell us, just in general terms, what is the Family Resource Center?
The Family Resource Center is kind of a grassroots kind of thing. Each community kind of helps define what their Family Resource Center should be. So when we first started, we did a needs assessment of the community. Where were the gaps? Where were children, where were we losing children? What were the barriers for families? And then you build your goals around that particular needs assessment. And we continue to do that throughout the years. I have a parent advisory board, and it has to have at least 50% of the parents that I serve on that board. So that helps me stay focused on what does this particular community need, and where are the barriers, and how do we break those down so that children can be academically successful and parents can be fully functioning in their community.
So when you talk about barriers, I mean, can you give me an example of a couple of barriers, or what do you mean by
Well, when I
barriers?
first started, the big barrier was transportation, because we didn't have public transportation. And back 25 years ago, we did have a volunteer program called FISH. We now have, that barrier is it's different now, because we have access through ETHRA to move families to and from. It still can be a barrier for families. But the biggest barriers that we see now oftentimes are much larger, like homelessness.
Really?
Yes. Matter of fact, I met with 2 homeless families just today. So trying to figure out why are you homeless? How do we get you off the streets? Working with the agencies in the community. A big part of what I do is working with other agencies in town, working with Aid to Distressed Families and Torch and Ridgeview and CAC, any place I can find that might have a resource for my families, Helen Ross McNabb, whatever it, and trying to remove those barriers. Because if we can break down those barriers, because if you're getting ready to be displaced, if you're in a home and your lights are off, it's kind of hard to expect a child to be able to walk into the classroom and dismiss that. So, I need to get into that home, find out why are our lights out, how do we get our lights back on, and what else is going on. And one of the things I do is I have this little sheet that I work with parents on, and I'm like tell me what your goals are. What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your child? And then from that, we start there first. Because what they really want is get my lights back on. And I want to get their lights back on too. But I want to help them to where their lights don't go off again. Or they don't, they're not feeling hungry again. So finding the root problems and helping build relationships.
So when you go into a home, I assume that the purpose that you're going into the home for basically is to assure that the children are safe and feel comfortable coming to schools and all. But then it sounds like you spend a lot more time, obviously, with the parents.
I spend a lot of time with children in the school setting.
Okay.
We have they come to me. I love that I've been here long enough now that children have transitioned through all of our schools. And many of them have graduated and moved on and are now successful, and that's the best part. One of my favorite stories is one time I was in a teacher training, and this young man walked in, and he said, "I want to know where that lady is." And everybody's like, "What lady? We're in a meeting." And he said, "No, there was this lady that helped me one time when my mom couldn't get me to school. She would make me come to school. She'd come get me and drive me to school. And I just wanted to let her know that I just got a full scholarship to college."
That's awesome.
And then he turned around and he said, "You're that lady, and I can't remember your name." And I'm so glad he didn't remember my name, but he remembered my deeds. So my goal is to make sure children feel, first of all, safe and loved and comfortable. And so I get calls almost every night. I'll have a parent call me and say, "Okay, my 14-year-old's doing la 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 la, and I don't know what to do with it. Can you walk me through it? Or will you talk to her?" Or I'll get a call from that 14-year-old that says, "I need you to talk to my mom." Or, I'm getting a little bit in trouble. So it's really, for me, all about building, because I've been here so long, it's about building relationships.
How do you go about identifying the children? Well, first, about how many families or children do you have in your program right now?
Last year we served 853 families, I believe, which was over 1,500 children.
853
families.
Covering what area?
Pre-K up, all the way to high school. And I serve 1,500 families. And it can be in different arenas. Sometimes it's a phone call and I need to find a dentist. I have a toothache. I need a mental health provider. My child, I've had parents who have come and said, "I have a drug problem. I'm ready for detox. Help me get into a program." My child has a drug problem. Help me get them into a program. So it's a variety.
So one of the questions I was going to have is how you identify the children that you serve. So some of it, obviously, the parents must hear about the program and they come.
Yes.
Are there other ways that you identify?
Yes, I get referrals from local community. I'll tell you the biggest thing, and I think the thing that makes me feel the proudest is that parents talk to each other and they build a network and they say, they call me Miss Jo Bruce. "Call Miss Jo Bruce, she will help you." So they're out in the community actually referring each other. I get a tremendous amount of referrals from our school counselors. Probably 50% come from school counselors or for teachers. I just tell them I have an open policy. If you have a child in need, send me an email with the information and I will take it from there. And we also get referrals from local churches. I get referrals from local organizations and other service providers. We do a lot of partnerships, so a lot of times, like the housing authority might call me and say, "I know that this child is in an Oak Ridge school, and do you know them?" And then we'll go from there.
So when you get a referral, whether it's from a church or from a counselor or something, do you then make a visit to the home, or do you call the student in the classroom and go out and meet the student in the classroom? What's your process?
Well, it depends on what the referral is. If the referral is something that seems to be a short term, and may not require a lot of different things. I will make a phone call usually to the parent. If it's the child that's in, if it's about a child, then I want to talk to the child. And I want to make sure that the child is heard and feels safe, and that they know that somebody is going to help them. I tell children, especially, most of my work is in the elementary setting, and a lot of my work is at Willowbrook Elementary, it is. We also have a satellite office at Glenwood. And so we're spending time with those children, getting to know them.
To be in the program, do the children have to be on free and reduced lunch? Or,
no.
Okay, just
No.
any kind of referral or something like that?
Yeah. If I'm going to provide some type of monetary assistance, most of the time those are families who would fall in the category of free and reduced lunch. But sometimes you just lose your job, and actually you were doing great, and you're so proud, and you don't know what to do and where to go and where to start. So they will start with me sometimes and just say, I hate this, but I'm at risk of losing my house, and I've never been there before. What do I do? Because I really made more money than these programs would see me, would make me eligible for. So with my donation dollars, I look at need. That's the priority for me, is where's the immediate need? And let's get that taken care of, because families that are just teetering on the edge, we call, like bubble kids on test, the bubble parents, we can push them right back over into self-sufficiency pretty easily and get them back on their feet. And then they're able then to continue to be a contributing and independent community person. So I think that's really important.
That's great. Well, we're going to take just a couple of minute break here, and we will then come back and continue this conversation. Very interesting learning about the Family Resource Center and what you're doing, Jo. So we'll take a break now. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. And we're back again, a Focus on Education series with Jo Bruce, the Director of the Family Resource Center. A couple of things. Where is the Resource Center located? Is it one place? Is it all places? Or is there a location?
We actually have two offices. We have an office at Willowbrook, which is where I'm housed, and then I have an assistant, Jessica Bivens, and she is housed at Glenwood. But we serve all Oak Ridge schools from the preschool up.
Okay. And how is the program funded?
Well, it originally started with a federal grant that was going through the state Department of Ed, and we still have that particular part of the grant. So about a third of our program is funded through that grant, and the other 2/3 come from the generosity of our local LEA.
And what does your budget run a year typically?
Our total budget is probably around $100,000 total.
Okay, very good. So you talked to us a little bit about some of the things that you do in case management. Now there's a program that you have, something called Readers and Leaders or something. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have a program at Willowbrook that I'm particularly proud of and fond of, because it is matching our children who are struggling readers with local community members who are leaders. So having them come in and share their life's experiences with our children around a good book is just amazing. And what I hear from my leaders is they get a lot more out of it than my readers. But what I hear from my readers is, one of my readers said, I want 2 of them. And I have many children who say, I want a grown-up. So they just see it as a partner, someone who is committed, and that reader comes in every week, and they read with the children for 30 minutes. And it's on a consistent schedule, so they have a day and a time, and it is fabulous.
So do the students get pulled out of their classroom during that time?
We pick a time that is not going to affect their academic time. It's a juggle. We do a lot of juggling. but we try to make sure, because we know the value for children who don't have a lot of consistency. The practice and the consistency is so important. Actually, I have one of my leaders who had a family emergency, and she has not been able to read with her student, and she's sending an encouraging letter through the mail every week to that student. And so it's encouraging. And in that letter, she says, don't forget, you got to give me that 30 minutes of reading. And so the student comes back to me and says, I read this, and this is what I learned from it, and then we can pass that on to the leader. And it's
about
just
how many
fabulous.
leaders do you have right now?
Right now we have about 28.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a wonderful program. Our goal is to hit 30 before the end of the school year. We hope we can get to that goal.
And is it all grades at Willowbrook?
It is all grades, and many of our leaders give us an hour to sometimes 2 hours, depending on their schedule. If they're working, they usually are sticking to that 30 minutes or an hour, but some of them are retired. So we have a lot of people that have retired from many different businesses and educational opportunities, colleges, different places, and they just come in and they love it, and the children love it.
That's really got to be helping this, one of our 7 keys is that every student will be reading at grade level by 3rd grade. So
it is.
That would be a very important part of that. So.
And we do track them. We track their academic, these students to see. And matter of fact, one of my leaders popped in today, and she said, my child has moved up 4 levels in his reading since the beginning of school. You guys are amazing here. And I said, no, you're amazing here, because he wouldn't read until he got acquainted to you and you felt comfortable. And he felt comfortable.
Awesome.
And then he began to read. He began to read not just to you, but to others.
So is the leaders then, do they work with their teachers, what books they should be reading, et cetera?
The teachers set the actual activity for that each reading time. Sometimes they'll say it's Independent Day, Choice Day, because we all know the importance of getting to choose a book and getting to have that opportunity to. It may be too hard for us, but I want to challenge myself, and I want to look at that book, and I'm curious about it. One of our students loves spiders, and so he is always looking for a book, and he didn't know the word arachnid, but he does now, and he knows that it's attached to a spider. So that's something, so now he comes and asks for the book about an arachnid. He doesn't really ask for a book about a spider anymore.
So is there a waiting list for the program?
Always.
Okay.
Always. Matter of fact, I had a 1st grade teacher come, and she gave me 2 referrals today. And she said, you're going to get that done in January. Is that right? Because I know we're not going to add anybody now, but we're going to add somebody in January for my students, right? And so I called up one of my leaders who said she would take one, and she said, okay, I'll take 2. So we're going to be able to meet the needs of that child, of both of those children. But we always have children on the waiting list, and we try to look at it and prioritize based on how much impact that program can have for the child. And the other piece that comes from that is the self-esteem building.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's about confidence. Reading is a lot, it is a skill, and we have to learn it. But if you feel you can't, then you won't.
So do the children and the leader then kind of go off into a corner or something like that?
They go to the library. We use the public library unless some of our volunteers choose to go through the whole background check and get fingerprinted, and then they can use a private place to read if they pass that screening. But a lot of our volunteers say, I feel more comfortable around a staff member. So they might use my office table, or they might use the library, or they might even work in a corner in the classroom. So it's pretty much based on the comfort level of the tutor.
Yeah. Do you have other programs throughout the year, events?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a lot of family events.
All right.
I work real closely with Miss Allison Peters, who is our Title I Parent Involvement Coordinator, and with the preschool, and we do a lot of parent education. So we do budgeting classes throughout the year to help parents learn how you can, save. Even if you are living at a very low income level, you can find a way to make $1. And one of my success stories about that was I worked with a woman, and she would bring it to me, and I had a lockbox, and we would lock the money in the lockbox. And then when she got to she set a goal of $30, and then we took it to the bank, and we opened her a savings account. And when her child graduated from high school here, she had $1,700.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there are lots of ways. So we talk about how you can shop, how you can eat healthy. We do a lot of that, because when you're on a very low income, a lot of times you don't have the opportunity to make good healthy choices about shopping. So we've actually even gone to the grocery store and shopped on a budget. We do a lot about when you're out of control, or your child is out of control, what do you do? So a lot of those kinds of classes. And then we do a lot of things like bringing them into the building. Because if we can get them into the building, then partnering with us, by serving on a committee, or by coming in and having breakfast with their child. Willowbrook does a thing called We Love Our Willowbrook Parents. Some people do muffins for mom, donuts for dads. I know Linden, tomorrow night, I'm partnering with them because they're having a Christmas event around STEM. So I look at what's going on and how I, as the Family Resource Center director, can partner with them too to bring parents into the building, so that when we get to that tough stuff, when we need to sit down and talk about, I'm really worried about him, they don't feel like it's us against them. It's us only, sitting at the table together. And I'm an advocate a lot of times in IEP meetings. And what I tell my parents are, I know you're going to hear a lot of words and you may feel overwhelmed. If you get confused, you can just nudge me under the table. And I've been kicked pretty hard a few times, saying, and then I just go, oh, wait a minute, guys, I didn't quite understand that. Could you repeat that for me? Because I want to make sure that I understand it. Did you say this? And then that parent is able then to relax and not have to feel like embarrassed.
Sure.
Because that's a hard process.
So when you have these classes that you're talking about for the parents, how do you advertise those?
We have a web page. We put them up on the web page. We send flyers out. If we know, if it's a program, that we think there are some specific parents that we need to have, we do a lot of phone calling and invitations. When we do our budgeting class, we have a sponsor who will give us a donation so that we can pay $25 on your utility bill this month if you come and attend this class.
Oh,
so, we have some things that we can give back to them too, and incentivize them to come. Because we know once they get in there, they'll like it. Yeah. And they'll probably want to come to others. And some of them are very successful, and some of them are very small, but we just keep working on them.
So tell me about your web page. What's the website? Is it on the Oak Ridge School website?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And we that is where we post anything and everything we can find that will help parents. If it's Attendance Awareness Week, because both Jessica and I are highly involved in attendance in our schools, then we will put up things about how you get your child to school. We put, if there's an event going on in the community, we put that up. If there's a free meal, that goes up on the screen. So anything that people can share with us, then we're sharing out to families. Anything that impacts a family. So we have lots of people who send us little tidbits, and then we just forward them out on our webpage. And then we also add our own things. We get a lot of questions back from parents. And the web page has actually led a lot of new parents my way. They're like, I don't know if you're exactly the person I should talk to, but you seem to be the person who would know where to send me. So, able to help families that are moving into what school would I go to? My child has an IEP. Who would I contact at that school? Helping, maneuver the system for them.
That's awesome. So you talked about things like incentivizing the parents with the utility bill. That obviously costs money.
It does.
Do you partner with businesses?
I do, and I have individual donors, private donors, and a local our faith-based community is very vested in our children. And so they have oftentimes local grants, and I'm very grateful to them that I'm able to apply for those and usually get grants. Sometimes it will be a one-time offering from a church that will be able to provide that. Sometimes it's just a request. I also I have some families who have chosen the Family Resource Center to be their organization for the year, so they'll make monthly donations to the Family Resource Center. And we're able to use those dollars for those emergency needs. If a child needs medicine and they need insurance, yes, they have access to insurance, but if they haven't gotten it yet, but they need medication to be successful in school, then I'm going to help them get that. And we would use the money for that. We can keep lights on for families, sometimes pay a little rental assistance. I will tell you, I'm not a handout person. I'm a real hand-up person because I believe that you have to have a goal. So I'm usually, unless it's an extreme case like a family, we're working now with a family whose the child is receiving chemo. That's an extreme situation, so I'm going to help them more. But most of the time I'm saying, so okay, how much can we find in your budget? And then let's see how I can help supplement you.
That's
and
awesome.
I can do it one time a year, twice if it's a real emergency, but I don't do it ongoing because I really believe that we have to be self-sufficient.
Yeah. All right, so there's Santa's Workshop. What's Santa's Workshop?
Santa's Workshop is the best part of my job. We start in September, and it is amazing. We have so many local businesses and individual sponsors, and we collect our names from all of our schools, from pre-K up, and we also serve the babies. So anyone from a baby up to the age of 18 still in school, if they need Christmas, then we're going to make sure that they get it. We do screen them with all the other agencies because we want to make sure that these are children who need it.
I've got to put a plug in. Oh, where was that picture? Put that picture back up there. So this is the Dew Sweepers. It's a golf group that yours truly is in. You'll recognize Keys Philauer, chairman of our board. Scott Hinton is also a teacher. You can come back to us now. But I don't know how many years we've been doing this, and every Saturday morning we've put $5 in the pot, and at the end of the year we have funds that we can fund a Christmas for a family, and it's just something that we like to do, and I'm sure you would love to have other people do something like that, but it sounds like you have a lot of good partners and organizations.
We're really fortunate right now. We just went beyond 850 children for Christmas this year. And what I want to stress is those are children who would not have Christmas without us, because we do screen with the other agencies in town that are providing Christmas. And it's just amazing. Santa's Workshop is going on at Willowbrook. If anybody has a minute or two this week and they want to come by and wrap presents, they're welcome to come by and wrap presents. If they want to pick up a gift card for a teenager and drop it by my school at Willowbrook. But yeah, we're running Santa's Workshop hard and heavy. We're doing about 100, we get like 100 gifts in a day, and 100 are going out. So 100 children in, 100 children out.
So I got two more questions to ask you. We're running out of short on time. No, this is great. You said you had a lot of businesses who've partnered with you. You've got a couple new ones now from the new businesses that have come into downtown Main Street.
We do. TJ Maxx called us, and actually I have some high school and middle school students that are going to TJ Maxx this Saturday to have breakfast with their staff and to have a shopping experience with their staff. And I thank them for that. And then Rack Room Shoes has adopted us to provide shoes for children in need. Yeah. So I just, they set aside a little over $900, and I just go in and say, I need a size 10 in a boy's, and they take me back and show me, and we are able to pick out a shoe, and it's just amazing. And
that's
you know,
awesome.
It's really nice to see our community growing.
Right.
And to see them really becoming a part of our community, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I love it.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Can't get out of here without, if you had one thing that you could ask for to the group out here, what would it be?
Well, you know, I'd like a magic wand so I could fix all my children's ills. That's number one. And I know I can't do that, but if I could do something else, I would say we need more people doing these kinds of things. I think schools need this as our community has changed and we've shifted. It's hard to do this much with one person that's full-time and one part-time person, but we get it done.
You're an amazing person.
We get it done.
And, you know, it's just, to me, this is just totally amazing what you do. I think you can see the service that you're providing is helping a lot of students and a lot of families in Oak Ridge, and we thank you very much. I'm getting the cut sign. Appreciate everybody watching today.
Yes,
I want to
thank
wish
you.
everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Me
we
as
thank
well.
Joe Bruce for being our guest today, and we'll come back in January. There'll be a new focus on education.
And
thank
Merry
you,
Christmas
and
to
good
you.
night. Merry Christmas.